When we enter this world, our very first act is to breathe. A fragile chest rises, air rushes in, and life begins. When we leave this world, the final gesture of our body is also a breath, one last exhale, carrying us into silence. Between these two moments, the first inhale and the last release, lies the entire story of our existence. Breath is the thread that quietly weaves together every heartbeat, every thought, and every step we take. Yet beyond sustaining the body, breath carries a deeper mystery. Each time we breathe in, we draw into ourselves particles of air that have circled the earth for billions of years, air once touched by trees, oceans, mountains, and even the stars themselves. Each time we breathe out, we return something of ourselves to this great cycle. Without noticing, we are constantly exchanging, constantly giving and receiving, in rhythm with the universe. This is why breath can be seen not just as a biological necessity, but as a bridge between the inner world of our body and the vast outer cosmos, a bridge between the visible and the invisible, between the physical and the spiritual, between the personal and the universal. And so the question arises, why does breath hold this unique power? Why is it, among all our human functions, the one that most directly reveals our connection with the greater whole? Perhaps it is because breath is the only function that is both automatic and conscious. We breathe without effort, yet we can also breathe with awareness. In this dual nature lies a doorway that opens into the recognition of our deepest connection. Breath is not only keeping us alive, it is constantly reminding us of the living cosmos that breathes with us. In this exploration, we will look at breath not only through the lens of science, but also through energy, presence, and spiritual insight. We will see how this simple, ordinary act, the rise and fall of the chest, can open the most extraordinary realization that we were never separate. Breath is the bridge because it dissolves the illusion of isolation. It guides us back into the rhythm of life, where body and cosmos breathe as one. To connect with the breath is to connect with the stars, the trees, the oceans, and the infinite field of energy in which we live. It is to recognize that every inhale carries the memory of the universe, and every exhale is a gift returned to it. Let us walk together across this bridge. Let us discover, with each mindful breath, the truth of belonging to something vast, eternal, and whole. When you connect your breath to the universe, the first transformation is felt in your body. Breath is not only air moving in and out, it is the very act that awakens the cells of your being. With each inhale, oxygen enters the lungs, passes into the bloodstream, and nourishes every corner of the body. With each exhale, waste and tension are released. This simple exchange, repeated thousands of times each day, keeps life flowing. When we breathe shallowly, the body is starved, the mind becomes restless, and the nervous system remains on alert. But when we breathe deeply, slowly, and consciously, the body receives a message of safety. The muscles begin to soften, the heart slows its pace, and the entire system shifts from stress to calm. In this way, connecting breath to the universe is not abstract. It begins with the most tangible experience of being alive. Science tells us that oxygen is the fuel of life. Every cell depends on it to produce energy. When we take full, mindful breaths, oxygen levels rise, and our metabolism begins to function with greater ease. The blood becomes more vibrant, carrying nourishment to the brain and to the heart. A steady breath bathes the body in vitality. But something more subtle happens. The nervous system is directly influenced by the rhythm of breathing. Fast, shallow breaths trigger the sympathetic system, the fight or flight response. Slow, steady breaths activate the parasympathetic system, the rest and restore response. This shift is profound. Stress hormones decrease, digestion improves, and the immune system awakens. In this harmony, the body finds balance. To breathe with the universe is to allow the natural intelligence of the body to remember what it was always meant to do. Live in balance, not in struggle. When you align your breathing with the natural world, the body begins to move in rhythm with the cycles of life. The rising and setting of the sun, the ebb and flow of the tides, the pulse of day and night, all have their reflection in your breath. During the morning, deeper inhalations awaken energy. At night, longer exhalations invite rest. Breathing consciously throughout these cycles helps the body remain attuned to its original design. We often forget that our bodies are not separate from nature. They are nature. Just as the trees breathe with us, just as the ocean releases and receives, so too does our chest rise and fall. When we bring awareness to this connection, we sense that we are not fighting against life, but moving with it. The breath restores our belonging, reminding the body it is part of a living ecosystem, not an isolated machine. Modern research shows how powerful this alignment truly is. Deep breathing improves heart rate variability, a marker of resilience and health. It increases blood flow to the brain, supporting clarity and memory. Hormones such as cortisol, which fuel stress, are reduced, while serotonin and dopamine, which support peace and happiness, are naturally elevated. Breathing fully does not only affect the lungs, it influences the entire orchestra of the body. This science echoes what ancient traditions have always known. The breath is medicine. To breathe with the universe is to receive a prescription older than any book, a practice written into the design of life itself. Every time we breathe deeply, we signal to the body that it can heal, it can restore, it can grow. The body listens to the breath as a child listens to the mother's song, calming, reassuring, returning to trust. So what happens when you connect your breath to the universe? The body begins to open. The chest feels lighter, the head clearer, the stomach softer. You sense spaciousness inside where once there was tightness. Your steps become gentler, your movements more fluid. Energy is no longer consumed by tension. It flows freely into vitality. This is why people describe the experience as feeling wide, open, and free. The body is not separate from the breath, and the breath is not separate from the universe. To breathe in rhythm with the cosmos is to welcome a harmony that the body has been longing for. It is to remember what health truly means, not merely the absence of illness, but the presence of balance, vitality, and flow. With each breath, you are reminded, your body is not a closed system, but part of a greater living whole. When you breathe with awareness, you are not only moving air, you are moving energy. Every tradition has a name for this subtle force. In India, it is called prana. In China, it is known as qi. The Greeks spoke of it as pneuma, and in the West, it is sometimes called vital force. All point to the same truth. Breath is more than oxygen. It is the current of life flowing through us. When you breathe deeply and consciously, you invite this current to circulate freely. It nourishes the body, uplifts the mind, and brightens the spirit. The difference can be felt instantly. Tension softens, energy awakens, and you sense a spark of aliveness within. To connect your breath with the universe is to recognize that every inhale draws in not only air, but the very essence of life that sustains all beings. Energy flows according to rhythm. Just as waves rise and fall, just as the seasons shift, energy moves in patterns. Breath is the most intimate rhythm we carry, and it has the power to tune us to greater frequencies. When the breath is shallow and erratic, the body and mind vibrate at a discordant pace. But when the breath becomes slow, deep, and steady, something remarkable happens. Brain waves shift from agitation to calm. The heart begins to beat in coherence, sending signals of peace throughout the body. This is resonance, the alignment of inner rhythm with the larger, universal rhythm. You are no longer fighting against the tide, you are flowing with it. To breathe deeply is to allow your own frequency to harmonize with the song of the cosmos. The experience is one of deep ease, as though life itself is carrying you forward. Science confirms what ancient wisdom has always intuited. Studies show that deep breathing can synchronize the rhythms of the heart and brain, creating what researchers call physiological coherence. This state is marked by clarity of thought, stability of mood, and resilience in the face of stress. When your breath falls into harmony, your energy field becomes stable and radiant. Beyond the body, breath also connects you with the fields of energy that surround the earth. The electromagnetic field of the heart, for example, expands with deep, loving breaths and can be measured several feet away from the body. When you breathe consciously, you extend not only your vitality, but also your presence. Your field touches the world, and the world touches you in return. Breath is the key that unlocks this exchange, showing you that energy is never separate. It is shared in every moment. Breath also unites us with the great forces of nature. Each inhale is influenced by the pull of the Earth's magnetic field, by the warmth of the sun, by the rhythm of the tides and the cycles of the moon. Even the light of distant stars is present in the air we breathe. When we breathe with awareness, we feel ourselves woven into these currents. The experience is subtle, yet undeniable. The body tingles, the skin feels alive, the inner channels of energy begin to flow. Meditation traditions describe this as the opening of pranic pathways or meridians. Modern language may call it relaxation or flow state, but the essence is the same. The breath tunes us to the field in which we are immersed. Inhaling, we receive life from the cosmos. Exhaling, we give ourselves back to it. It is an eternal dance of exchange. So what happens when you connect your breath to the universe? Energy moves. It no longer feels stuck or heavy. It flows like a river, spacious and alive. The body feels lighter, the mind clearer, and the spirit uplifted. Where there was contraction, now there is expansion. Where there was fatigue, now there is vitality. This is the secret that breath reveals. You are not separate from the flow of life. You are part of it, carried by it, nourished by it. Each breath is a reminder that you belong to a larger current, a universal force that is always present. To breathe with awareness is to feel that belonging. It is to experience yourself not as a fragment, but as a wave in the great ocean of energy. And in that recognition, a quiet joy arises. The joy of being fully alive, fully connected. The mind is often restless, like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. Thoughts appear one after another, memories of the past, worries about the future, endless plans, judgments, and doubts. This constant chatter leaves us exhausted, even when nothing has happened. But something shifts the moment we bring attention to the breath. As the inhale enters and the exhale leaves, the monkey mind begins to quiet. It is as though the breath whispers to the mind, "You can rest now." The racing thoughts lose their grip, and a gentle spaciousness opens inside. We realize that the present moment has been here all along, waiting beneath the noise. When you connect your breath to the universe, you are connecting to the one rhythm that does not hurry, does not cling. Breath flows naturally, reminding the mind how to return to calm. Eckhart Tolle calls breath the gateway to the now. Why? Because unlike thoughts, which always move toward past or future, breath only exists here, in this moment. You cannot breathe yesterday, and you cannot breathe tomorrow. The inhale and exhale are eternally present. When you give attention to the breath, awareness is anchored in the now. The mind, which is used to wandering, suddenly has a place to land. Each inhale is an invitation to arrive. Each exhale is a release of what is no longer needed. Through this, a profound stillness emerges. Not a forced silence, but a natural quiet that arises when you align with what is real. The now is not something you must create. It is revealed the moment your awareness rests on the breath. In this way, connecting breath to the universe is the same as awakening to the present. Buddhist practice offers a beautiful path of returning through the breath, called Anapanasati, or mindfulness of breathing. Here, one does not try to control the breath, but simply observe it. The rise and fall of the abdomen, the coolness at the nostrils, the warmth of the exhale. Each sensation is a doorway into awareness. As the practice deepens, the mind becomes steady. Distractions still come, but they no longer pull you away. You begin to notice that awareness itself is constant, like a vast sky in which all thoughts pass like clouds. Breath reveals this truth gently, without effort. You do not have to stop thinking. You only need to stay with the breath, and thoughts dissolve into the background. Through Anapanasati, the mind learns its natural state. Clear, calm, and awake. The breath leads you home to the pure presence of being. When breath calms the mind, everything changes. Stress softens, clarity emerges, and even ordinary experiences take on a luminous quality. The sound of the wind, the taste of water, the warmth of sunlight, all become vivid, alive. This is what happens when awareness is no longer scattered but gathered into presence. Science supports this experience. Mindful breathing lowers activity in the default mode network of the brain, the system linked to rumination and self-centered thought. At the same time, regions connected to focus, empathy, and emotional balance grow stronger. The result is not only peace, but also resilience and compassion. Breath thus transforms the mind on both a spiritual and neurological level. It is not just an ancient teaching, It is a universal medicine for the modern world. By connecting breath to the universe, you reclaim a mind that is spacious and steady. So what happens to the mind when you connect your breath to the universe? The grip of thoughts begins to loosen. The weight of the past and the anxiety of the future fade into the background. You rest in the only place that life truly exists, this breath, this moment. The experience is one of profound relief. No longer tossed about by every thought, the mind discovers it can be still. Still, yet awake. Silent, yet aware. In that stillness, a gentle joy arises, not the joy of excitement, but the quiet happiness of simply being. You realize that you do not need to escape the mind. You only need to breathe with it, and through the breath, let it return to harmony with life. In this way, breath is not only air, it is awareness itself, guiding you into peace that never leaves. When you breathe with awareness, something remarkable begins to happen. The sense of "I am breathing" slowly dissolves. At first, we think of breath as something we control. I inhale, I exhale. But with deeper attention, we realize breath is not owned by anyone. It simply flows. Breathing happens, whether we claim it or not. It is a universal movement, entering through the body, but belonging to no self. This recognition is the beginning of dissolving the illusion of separation. The ego whispers, "I am the one breathing." Yet the truth reveals itself. The air has been breathed by countless beings before us. The rhythm of life was here long before we arrived, and it will continue long after we leave. To connect breath with the universe is to see clearly. There was never a separate self at the center of it all. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh calls this truth interbeing. It means that nothing exists by itself alone. Everything is made of everything else. Breath shows this most directly. Each inhale carries the trees, the clouds, the oceans, and even the stars. Each exhale becomes food for the plants, nourishment for the earth, and a gift to other living beings. To breathe is to participate in a cosmic continuation. The air in your lungs has touched mountains, rivers, and countless forms of life. You are never isolated. You are always in communion. Every breath is a reminder that the boundary between me and world is only a thought, not a reality. Breath reveals what words cannot. We are woven into a single fabric of existence. When you connect breath to the universe, you feel yourself not as a separate drop, but as the ocean itself breathing. The cycle of breath also mirrors the law of karma. What we release does not disappear. It continues, shaping the world. Every exhale carries carbon dioxide that nourishes plants, which in turn create the oxygen we later inhale. This endless loop shows that breath is not personal property, but shared destiny. In the same way, our thoughts, words, and actions are like breaths in the moral universe. They ripple outward, influencing others, returning to us in subtle ways. When we see breath as part of this karmic exchange, we begin to live with more care. We realize that what we send into the world, whether an exhale, a word, or an act, returns to us through the great circle of life. To breathe consciously is to step into harmony with this law. It is to recognize that every breath is an offering, a contribution to the living field of existence. What happens then to the sense of self when we connect our breath with the universe? It begins to soften. The rigid walls of identity loosen, and what remains is a more spacious sense of being. We see that I am not separate from the tree outside, because its breath flows in my body. I am not apart from the ocean, because its mist and evaporation shape the very air I inhale. The boundary of the self becomes porous, transparent. This does not mean we lose individuality. It means we discover something deeper than individuality. We discover belonging, a belonging so vast that the old question, "Am I alone?" fades away. When the breath flows in unity, the illusion of isolation dissolves. You feel that you are not only alive in the world is alive in you. And in this recognition, fear loses its grip. So what happens when you connect breath to the universe at this level? You awaken to the truth that you were never separate. The idea of an isolated self vanishes, replaced by the living reality of oneness. You feel not that you are breathing, but that the cosmos is breathing you. This experience is both humbling and liberating. Humbling because you see that your life is supported by countless visible and invisible forces. Liberating because you realize you are never alone, never cut off, never abandoned. The breath of the universe flows through you in every moment, reminding you that you are part of something infinite. To live in this awareness is to walk gently, to love deeply, and to rest in the truth of belonging. The illusion of separation dissolves, and what remains is the simple, radiant fact: you are the universe breathing itself. Breath is not only the bridge of life, it is also the medicine of life. Every inhale and exhale carries the potential to heal. When we are stressed, the breath becomes shallow and constricted, mirroring the tension inside. When we are frightened or angry, the breath becomes rapid and sharp, echoing the storm in our emotions. But when we breathe deeply, slowly, and consciously, something remarkable happens. The body begins to release what it has been holding. The shoulders drop, the stomach softens, the jaw unclenches. The nervous system receives a message: you are safe. With this message, stress begins to melt. The mind feels lighter, and the heart feels freer. Through the breath, we discover that we do not need to fight against tension. We can simply let it dissolve, one exhale at a time. This is the first gift of breath as medicine, relief. But breath does more than calm the surface. It also touches what is hidden beneath. Our unprocessed emotions, grief, anger, fear, are often stored in the body as tension and pain. When we breathe with awareness, we create space for these emotions to rise and release. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Deep, rhythmic breathing activates areas of the brain that regulate memory and emotion, allowing trauma to be integrated rather than suppressed. In therapeutic practices known as breathwork, people often experience intense waves of emotion rising and falling, as though old wounds are being given permission to finally heal. Spiritual traditions describe the same process in different words. The breath carries away the dust of the heart. By breathing deeply, we are no longer running from our pain. We are allowing it to be seen, felt, and released into the larger rhythm of life. In this release, transformation becomes possible. Pain, once carried as a heavy burden, begins to shift into strength. Fear, once paralyzing, becomes the doorway to courage. Sorrow, once isolating, opens the heart to compassion. The breath is the alchemy that makes this change possible. Each conscious inhale invites in fresh energy, hope, and clarity. Each conscious exhale lets go of what no longer serves: old stories, rigid defenses, unnecessary weight. Over time, this simple rhythm reshapes the inner landscape. The journey is not about escaping difficulty, but about discovering a new relationship with it. Through breath, we learn that suffering is not a wall, but a teacher. It softens us, deepens us, and prepares us to love more fully. This is how breath heals, not by erasing wounds, but by transforming them into sources of wisdom and compassion. Across cultures, this healing power of breath has always been recognized. In yogic traditions, breathing practices are called pranayama, designed to cleanse the subtle channels of energy. In Buddhism, mindful breathing is taught as a way to dissolve suffering and return to awareness. In modern psychology, breathwork is now used to help with trauma, anxiety, and depression. Different words, different methods, but the same truth. The breath heals. What makes breath unique is its immediacy. Unlike medicine taken from outside, breath is always here, already within reach. Unlike complicated rituals, it requires no preparation, only attention. At any moment, we can close our eyes, inhale deeply, and feel the shift. Healing does not need to be distant. It begins in this very breath, right now. And with each breath, layer by layer, the body and mind remember how to return to wholeness. So what happens when you allow breath to heal you? You begin to feel lighter, as though invisible weights are being lifted. You feel more open, as if space is expanding inside the chest. You feel whole, not because life has become perfect, but because you are no longer resisting it. This experience is deeply personal, yet universal. People often describe it as being reborn or as finally coming home to themselves. Through the breath, we realize that healing is not something given from the outside. It is something awakened from within. The breath carries us from fear to love, from contraction to expansion, from brokenness to integration. It whispers that we are capable of renewal again and again. And perhaps the greatest gift is this: the breath shows us that healing is not an exception. It is the natural rhythm of life itself. What happens when you live each day in connection with your breath? Life itself begins to soften. Ordinary moments become sacred, not because they change, but because you are fully present for them. Breathing while eating transforms a simple meal into a communion with the earth. Each bite becomes a gift of soil, sun, and rain. Breathing while walking makes every step lighter, as though you are carried by the earth rather than pushing against it. Breathing while working turns even routine tasks into moments of focus and peace. Daily mindfulness through breath does not require hours of practice. It requires attention, gently woven into the fabric of life. The more you remember to breathe with awareness, the more you realize this moment is already enough. To live this way is to live awake, no longer asleep in thought, but alive in the rhythm of now. Breath also opens the door to creativity and inspiration. When the mind is restless, creativity struggles to flow. But when the breath is deep and steady, the mind clears, like a calm lake reflecting the sky. In this calm, new ideas emerge effortlessly, as though whispered by the universe itself. Artists, musicians, and writers throughout history have spoken of inspiration arriving like a breath, sudden and unforced. This is no coincidence. When we align our breath with awareness, we align ourselves with the source of creation itself. The inhale gathers energy, the exhale releases expression. Together, they form the natural rhythm of creativity. To connect your breath to the universe is to open yourself as a channel. What flows through is not only your own effort, but the infinite imagination of life. Breath becomes the brush, the pen, the song, bringing forth what was waiting to be born. Beyond creativity, breath invites freedom. Most of the time, we feel bound by habits, by fears, by the weight of expectation. But when you breathe consciously, those chains loosen. You realize that you do not have to be defined by your past or controlled by your future. You are free in this breath, right now. This freedom is not about escaping life. It is about living it more fully. You feel less compelled to chase, less afraid to lose. Breath teaches that everything comes and goes. The inhale arrives, the exhale departs, and yet life continues. In this rhythm, you discover trust. Trust in the flow of existence. Trust that you are carried. Freedom blooms not as rebellion, but as surrender to the natural rhythm that was always here. With breath, life no longer feels like a cage. It feels like open sky. Living in breath also awakens compassion. When you breathe with awareness, your heart softens. You begin to notice not only your own breath, but the breaths of others. You realize that every person, every creature, is sharing this same invisible bridge. We are all breathing together, supported by the same earth, sustained by the same air. This awareness dissolves judgment and separation. The stranger on the street, the friend who hurt you, the child in your arms, all are breathing the same universal rhythm. And in this recognition, love arises naturally. You do not need to force compassion. It flows through you like air itself. The heart opens, not out of duty, but out of recognition. We are one. To live in breath is to live in love, a love that includes yourself, others, and the entire world. So what happens when you live each day connected to your breath? You become a bridge for peace to flow through your actions, a bridge for creativity to flow through your mind, a bridge for compassion to flow through your heart. Life does not become perfect, but it becomes alive. You feel lighter, more spacious, more attuned to the rhythm that carries all things. Stress may still come, but it no longer defines you. Challenges may appear, but you meet them with openness. The breath teaches you that everything passes and everything belongs. To live this way is to become porous to life, to let it move through you without resistance. You are no longer just surviving, you are participating in the dance of the cosmos. With every breath, you embody freedom and love. With every breath, you remember you are already home. As we come to the end of this journey, let us return to the simplest truth. Connecting your breath to the universe is not about adding another practice, another discipline, or another burden. It is not something new you must learn or achieve. It is, instead, the recognition of what has always been here. The breath has never been separate from the cosmos. It has always been a bridge, silently weaving your body into the great fabric of existence. Every inhale has always carried the forests, the oceans, the stars. Every exhale has always returned you to the flow of life. Even in the moments when you forgot, the breath never forgot you. It continued, steady and faithful, a reminder that you are sustained by something larger than yourself. To connect breath with the universe is not to create connection, but to see the connection that was never broken. There is a phrase that captures this perfectly. You don't breathe. The universe breathes you. At first, this may sound strange. After all, we feel as if we are the ones controlling our lungs, drawing in air, pushing it out. But if we look more closely, we realize that breath is happening through us, not because of us. We are participants in a rhythm much older than our own will. The trees create oxygen that fills our lungs. The oceans release vapors that become the air we inhale. The stars themselves forged the elements that now circulate in our bodies. When you breathe, it is the whole cosmos breathing in concert with you. You are not the master of breath. You are the vessel through which the living universe continues its dance. To realize this is to feel a deep humility and an even deeper belonging. When you carry this awareness into daily life, everything changes. Breathing is no longer just a mechanical act. It becomes a prayer, a meditation, a communion. You eat, walk, speak, and love with more presence. You discover that each breath is an invitation to return, not to some distant heaven, but to the very heart of this moment. The challenges of life still come, but you meet them with a steadier heart. The joys of life still arrive, but you savor them more fully. In every rise and fall of the chest, you feel yourself held by something vast and unshakable. This recognition does not remove you from the world. It anchors you more deeply within it. You begin to see yourself not as an isolated individual, but as a living expression of the whole. And with each breath, you are reminded, this is home. You have always been home. So let this be the closing of the circle. Every breath is a return to the body, a return to presence, a return to the universe that has always carried you. You are not apart from the stars, the trees, or the great tide of existence. You are woven into it, moment by moment, through the miracle of breath. And when you live in this recognition, something profound awakens. You begin to walk with more gentleness, to speak with more kindness, to love with more openness. Because you know, in the quiet of your being, that nothing is truly separate. So breathe now, with awareness. Breathe not as an isolated act, but as a sacred reminder. Every inhale is the cosmos entering you. Every exhale is you returning to the cosmos. And in this endless exchange, you realize the truth. You have never been alone. You are, and always have been, the universe breathing itself.